All right, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Friday, July 15th. Welcome in. We've got another fellow Sooner commit that just committed on Thursday, Daylen Smothers. We're going to be talking about him. We're going to be talking about a little bit of Big 12 Media Days, a little about what Venables and Marvin Mims and Ethan Downs had to say. And then at the back end of the show, we have an interview with 2024 four-star Mario Craver. He's a wide receiver. He seems to be pretty interested in, I might even say, an OU lean at this point. I know it's 2024, but you just have to stick around for that interview. That'll be at the end. We'll roll right into it. It was a pretty good interview and someone that I feel pretty good about. So you need to stay around and be sure to watch that. But before we get into it, just want to say we appreciate it. We're at over 4,500 subscribers, going for 4,600 here in the next week or so, with an ultimate goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So help us out, get us there. I know like over 50% of you that are watching this aren't subscribed. So you might as well hit the subscribe button. If you keep coming back, turn the notification bell. We're going to go live again Monday, August 1st at 8 p.m. Central. So be sure to turn the notification bell so you won't forget when we go live. We do post Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 9:30 Central time. But we got an upcoming live, and you need to stay in touch with that. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, leave us a review, help us out. It helps spread our podcast around. And follow us on our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and obviously Apple and Spotify. Everything's linked below. So we'll get right into it. So OU yesterday, July 14th, picked up a commitment from 2023 four-star running back Daylen Smothers, 5'11", 182 pounds, number 218 overall, number 9 running back in the class. He went to Oklahoma over Florida State, NC State, and Alabama. As a junior, he had over 1,700 yards, 30 touchdowns. A dynamic receiver, joins the fold with Caleb Hicks. Seems like the 2023 running back room is now full, and DeMarco Murray has got his guys, and not a bad haul at all. Brandon, what do you think about Daylen Smothers and the running back room as a whole now?
Daylen Smothers is a stud. I mean, there's a reason he's a top 10 running back in the class, according to 24/7. He comes in at number 9, but I mean, the dude had 1,700 yards, 30 plus touchdowns as a junior. That's ridiculous no matter where you are. He's, I think, back-to-back North Carolina Player of the Year for the state, but his tape is fun. He's a dude who's really hard to bring down. It seems like the first defender that to have a crack at it never gets the job done. He's able to make people miss. He's able to run people over. He's got a good burst. He's going to bring a lot to the table. When you look at the running back room as a whole, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to talk about that in my analysis here, since we are analysts, according to was it the Trojan Wire that said we're analysts. But since we're analysts, we are providing analysis. But yeah, the running back room to me is interesting. I was talking to my younger brother after Daylen Smothers committed today. I look at it, and this is one man's point of view, and I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts too. So in the 22 class, you get Javonte Barnes and you get Gavin Sawchuk. You guys know how I feel about Javonte Barnes. I'm pretty sure you're all in the same boat, where Javonte Barnes is going to be a big-time player for Oklahoma, I think, immediately. His first year on campus. 23 class, you've got Daylen Smothers and Caleb Hicks. I kind of feel like, just looking at the tape and stuff, that Daylen Smothers will be that guy in the 23 class. So my question is, how much playing time realistically does a guy like Gavin Sawchuk see in that Oklahoma running back room in his career, or even Caleb Hicks? Because I feel like, and again, one man's opinion, I feel like Smothers and Barnes are going to be those guys.
I think Gavin is very different from the other three guys. Javonte Barnes, Caleb Hicks, and Daylen Smothers have more similar games to each other than they do to Gavin. Gavin, to me, if you're going to compare him to a running back, and I'm not saying at all that he's to the same caliber, but he's a kind of a Christian McCaffrey like running back, where he can definitely take the ball and run it. But I would rely on him a lot more because of his speed and how shifty he is on catching out of the backfield. I think we're going to see him have a bigger role in that. Maybe if you want to compare him to someone that's currently on the roster, kind of like Eric Gray, and how he has been utilized, mainly last year. And how I expect him to be utilized this upcoming season. He's definitely going to be a guy that's going to be relied on when we see passing plays where it's where the running back is the number one receiver in the play. So I don't think Gavin Sawchuk is in any way going to be hurt by these additions. I think it's actually going to help everyone out because it's going to make them kind of want to play, not obviously to a higher level, because now there's a ton of competition at that running back room, where in the past it seemed like there was usually one or two guys that stood out and there's a bit of a lack of depth. But Caleb, I think, I agree with you that Daylen's got a really big upside. I think Caleb has the opportunity to just like Javonte Barnes to come in and impact the team a little sooner because of how physical he runs the ball. Just from like trying to recall from his highlights, he's a pretty physical runner. He goes up, downhill really aggressively, and he's just as hard to get down as Daylen Smothers is.
And I agree. I think Caleb Hicks has really good tape, and I think they all do. I think they're all pretty good players, and I would ideally like to see them all thrive. But when you look at it, Marcus Major is still there. 2022, I think Javonte Barnes takes that leap. So 2023, if Daylen Smothers is that guy, and even if you deploy a 2 running back set, it's in my opinion, again, Barnes and Smothers. And I can see the Sawchuk argument because he kind of does have that CMC type feel where he can do a lot of gadget plays and kind of, running screen passes or Texas routes out of the backfield or whatever. But I feel like one of these guys ultimately ends up getting buried.
That might be. You remember, this might be a sore topic to talk about, but you remember Raleek Brown, that obviously was committed to Oklahoma and flipped to USC. And the role that he was going to have is more of a kind of a pass catcher and maybe even playing a little bit of slot. I could see Gavin Sawchuk be in that role as well to get on the field because he's that dynamic. They need to get him on the field. Caleb Hicks, like you said, Jose, he's almost 200 pounds. I think he's going to beef up a little more and go over 200 once he gets on campus. And he's going to come in and, kind of be the enforcer and the heavy hitter. And then you're going to be able to throw in a faster guy like a Javonte Barnes or even a Daylen Smothers, a little more speed, a little more, finesse. I really do think that Levy, while his offense is a lot of wide receivers can thrive and multiple players can have 700 plus yard receiving years, you have 3 of them and everything else. I think the running back room and the running back distribution is going to be, we're going to be running 2 heavy, like 2 running backs heavily. We're not going to be just a 1 running back kind of place. And I think Marcus Major, we don't even need to think about him because he will either be gone after the season because he's going to the NFL or he's going to probably transfer. I just don't see Marcus Major hanging around for another year. And I think Eric Gray also is on the path to go to the NFL. Another good, like one good season, he's going to the league too. So I think there's going to be plenty of time and play, for all these guys to play just at different times.
It's also going to kind of come down to an early enrollment period. I think I think all of us said that, right? With how Javonte is going to impact this offense versus Gavin. I think the difference at this point is because Javonte came in January and Gavin enrolls in the summer. Javonte's got that 6-month lead on Gavin on impacting this offense earlier. But like Brum said, those 2 veterans and Marcus Major and Eric Gray, it seems to be their last season at Oklahoma. And, that's just our perspective. We can be wrong, but I would be surprised if they stuck around after this year, either if they're NFL bound or they're grad transfers, wherever the situation may be. I think this offense is completely rebuilding and Gavin Sawchuk definitely still has an opportunity to be impactful, and comparing him to that role that we expected Raleek Brown to have, I think is fair, especially with the frame that Gavin has, because he's not too beefy. He can definitely put on some more weight, but you don't want to sacrifice speed and agility just to put on mass and run the ball.
And ultimately, depth is never a bad thing. It's actually a great problem to have if you have. When you look at it, I think we have 4 really, really good running backs combined in the 2022 and 2023 class. And when they're that close and they're only separated by a season. And again, in one man's opinion, I feel like somebody eventually gets buried in the depth chart, at least for a year or 2. And then we'll see if they stick it out or what happens. But, I'm not the coaches. We'll see how it plays out. That's just an opinion here, and I'm curious to see what you guys think. The watchers. Do you guys? What happens in the running back room? What happens in the running back room? What do you think?
Yeah, that could be, and it could be that Caleb Hicks comes in red shirts, or Daylen Smothers, or both comes in red shirts, or something happens where they're not actually going to play their freshman year and they'll end up redshirting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it also depends on the health of everyone around them. But like you said, at the end of the day, depth is great, and it's a lot better than what it has been in recent memory. So overall, pretty pumped about this commitment. We talked about it quite a bit. We were watching the Instagram live announcement. I think we all agreed when he picked up the Alabama hat, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to look like idiots. We've been talking like Daylen Smothers is having OU lean. I was like, oh no, we're going to have to like eat crow on this. And then obviously he ended up choosing the right team. So
yeah, I was definitely, it was a little bit of a heart dropping moment there where I really almost felt like a big dumb dipshit.
Exactly. So overall, pretty good first 2 weeks of July. I guess the last month has been really good for Oklahoma, going back into June. Still have a couple commitments, hopefully, that are going to happen with a few guys that are going to be committing towards the end of this month, and maybe a guy or two that hasn't announced their commitment date maybe could join the fold as well, or early August. So a lot of good things coming, and we'll be covering that as it gets closer. So now, obviously, happening on Thursday, the Big 12 Media Days, when Oklahoma showed up. Oklahoma obviously had Brent Venables, Ethan Downs, Mark Mims, Dylan Gabriel, and I'm trying to think, am I forgetting someone? I feel like I'm forgetting. Yeah, Woody Washington. That's who I was forgetting. Some good quotes came out of there, and we were talking a little bit before we got on. Jose, you brought up a good one. I want you to lead off with what with article you found and what you thought was pretty interesting.
We talking about Marvin Mims here? Yeah. So I mean, it's like I said, before we started recording, I thought it was, very good for Oklahoma, but could have almost been bad. Marvin said in an interview that he was very much considering transferring after the season if Lincoln Riley would have stuck around, which, for the USC fans that watch our podcast for whatever reason, I don't know why, but you do, you probably think that's probably the dumbest thing you've ever heard. But if you actually look at the statistics from last year's offense, there was no real number one receiver. And I think that's what really, that's what Marvin referred to. He didn't like that. He wanted more targets. And if you look at another guy that came out of his recruiting class in Smith and Jigba from Ohio State, that guy was the number 3 receiver at Ohio State. He was playing with 2 first-round talents, and he was targeted 120 times. Lincoln Riley, he's a good offensive coordinator, but last year there was something going on where he could not get the ball to his wide receivers. And I don't think that it's on the quarterbacks. Both Spencer and Caleb, I think, did what they could to run the offense. There was just something that was happening, and people can speculate, but the wide receivers weren't producing to the caliber that like Hollywood Brown was doing in the past, or CeeDee Lamb, D.D. Westbrook. None of those guys would have been content with only getting about 60 targets. I mean, Marvin Mims has the ability, if you give him 120 targets, he can probably be the best wide receiver in college football, if not top 3 easily, because he just has that ability. And he mentioned it, coming out of high school, he felt like he was unstoppable. And we all saw it going into his freshman year. He had an amazing true freshman year. And I felt in love with his gameplay because of it. He just looked amazing as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old guy. He was essentially dominating the Big 12 as a receiver. And then he has an off year. I mean, I think it's fair for him to have had that thought process, but obviously it worked out for the Sooners. We're not losing one of the best receivers in college football because of Lincoln Riley's departure. So thank you, Lincoln.
Yes, thank you, Lincoln. We are in better hands now. But another quote, and the one that everybody's going to talk about, the most famous quote of the Big 12 Media Day, I think Brent Venables stole the show with his "there's a fire hose in my mouth" type situation. But just overall, I think what you get from Brent Venables' press conferences, it lasted about 20 minutes, 21 minutes or whatever. But I think there was only 4 or 5 questions asked in that 20-minute span, because the way Brent Venables just elaborates on every single answer, every single question he's asked, he elaborates for so long. Like, you can just tell he's so excited to be there. He's so excited to, finally have his chance. I say finally have his chance. He's been offered multiple head coaching jobs, but he felt this one was right. Someone asked him for the 38,000th time why he picked Oklahoma. He gave that answer again, but you can just tell his excitement there. You kind of get the feeling that he feels like they're good, they're close, but they're not where they're going to be yet. He repeatedly talked about the way he judges being successful as being better than where you started off at. Like, you can tell it's going to be a journey. You can tell he's excited. I think we're in good hands, and that was the biggest takeaway I took away from the whole Big 12 Media Day.
Definitely, he is excited. He's pumped about the whole deal, and it's just nice to see a coach that is passionate about a program, as passionate as we are, and everyone that's watching this podcast, or 95% of people that are watching this. We might have a few people that are trolls and just looking for something to comment on, against us or whatever. But most people that are watching this agree, love Oklahoma football as much as we love Oklahoma football. And it's nice to have someone that echoes that. Something that from his press conference that I kind of took away is just whenever he came in and what he tried to establish from the get-go, building the relationships and really teaching and explaining to every single one of those players and all the kids that he's recruiting now is what it means to buy into the program, and just commit themselves to it and be all in, like what Clemson does. There's nothing wrong with emulating what Clemson has done with Dabo Swinney, in my opinion. I mean, they've won multiple national championships. They're recruiting at one of the, at the highest level. They're playing at the highest level. It's really never a bad thing. And that's, his big 2 influences in his life have been Bob Stoops and Dabo Swinney. And obviously it's probably going to be a mix between both of them. And I just couldn't be happier. I mean, it just seemed like he was genuinely happy to be there and passionate. And he just feels like this is home for him. And that's
another takeaway, and it comes again. Oh, my bad. But another takeaway, and it comes again from Marvin Mims. At least I'm 99% sure it's Marvin Mims. I know I'm about to bring up 2 points, and I know for a fact one of them was Marvin Mims. But I think Marvin Mims said something along the lines of, like, we're not the outcasts. We run the Big 12 pretty much, or like we're here. That's pretty much what he was getting to, and it could have been someone else, but I thought that was cool. And I do expect Oklahoma to win the Big 12 this year. There's no reason that they shouldn't. And then the other thing he said that seemed to have OU football players going crazy on Twitter is he alluded to being the best basketball player on the team. And I know Theo Weiss came from the woodwork. Eric Gray came out. There was 3 or 4 players who said this dude's lying to all of us. So I would like to see OU football somehow see these tweets. I'm sure they do. They follow all of them. They need to arrange a friendly 1v1 off. Marvin Mims goes against Theo Weiss and Eric Gray, then whoever else commented, to see who actually is the best hooper on OU football, because I think that'd be fun.
And if OU football doesn't want to do that, Two Plane Sports can always get that together for you guys. Just, reach out to us, Marvin. But outside of those takeaways, he also was something that I really took away from. I think most of the players, all the 4 of the players said it, is how much of an impact these coaches have already had on them personally, and that's clearly something that when we talked to Bates, Joshua Bates, and when you guys talked to Ozida, that's something that resonated with recruits, and that's clearly something that's impacting the current players. I think it was Marvin that mentioned, like, something that's big. One of the biggest differences between last year under Lincoln Riley and in the first 6 months of being with Brent Venables, those guys are out there for each other and they want to win and do what they can for their teammates. Just taking away, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty close for the most part, taking that little bit away from what Marvin Mims said just shows how, I think it was Austin Stogner that came out when he transferred and said it wasn't a great environment. It was all very transactional, and how the program was run. If you won, good for, great, you're increasing your draft stock and you're making us look better. And if you weren't up to our standards, and, kick rocks kind of situation. And then I saw something else on Twitter that Ethan Downs actually talked to Coach Chavis about proposing to his girlfriend before he even did it. I think that speaks volumes to how impactful Chavis has been already to the guys because, like personally, when I proposed to my wife, I talked to my parents. I feel like that's normal for most people. You talk to the people you're closest to. And Chavis is already a guy that's in that inner circle for his players. So I think that's awesome. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that from the players, the recruits, and we're going to see we're going to all feel different as fans when we watch these games. We're going to see a different passion for the game. Not that these guys didn't love football already, but we're going to see something different.
I 100% agree, and I'm in the same boat as you. I talked to my parents before I proposed to my wife too. I mean, so I would have, if you would have asked Ethan 6 months ago, hey, you're going to talk to Chavis before you propose to your girlfriend. I mean, that just doesn't even seem reasonable because I don't even feel like that would even happen with the old staff. That open family.
If he asked Lincoln Riley, I think Lincoln Riley would have said, do it. But if along the way you're just not feeling it anymore, just leave. That would have been that would have been his advice, and that's horrible advice, I think, in this matter. But that's what you get out of good old. Where's he from? Muleshoe. What you get out of fucking Muleshoe is shit.
Yeah. So overall, I thought the Big 12 Media Days was pretty good. I also saw Gundy say that why are Oklahoma and Texas even invited to this? Well, those are the two schools that run the Big 12 and carry the conference and who signs the checks. So they're going to be invited until they leave for the SEC.
That dude was so butthurt in multiple answers. So he obviously mentioned if it were up to me, Oklahoma and Texas wouldn't even be welcome in these rooms, whatever. So he says that. And then he was also asked about the future of Bedlam, and he said, he sounded pissed off about it or sounded not happy. Well, the future of Bedlam is 1 or 2 more years because of the decision that somebody else made. I wanted to be like, bitch, for a fact you're happy that Bedlam is only 1 or 2 more years because why? I mean, you're 3-14 lifetime against Oklahoma, 3-15, something along those lines. Don't act as if you're so devastated that all of a sudden Oklahoma's not going to be on your schedule year after year because you're saving yourself a loss. It's just
Oklahoma offered and wants to schedule like an early September game every single year, an out of conference game, and someone is saying no.
I hope we play them 3 more times. I hope we get them this year, or well, I guess we can. It's only 2 more times, but 3 more times would have been fun because then Brent Venables could have gone to the SEC with just as many Bedlam wins as Mike Gundy.
Well, it'll be 2022, 23, and 24 if they stay the entire time.
There it is, boys. Let's stay in for 3 more years. Venables run it up 3 times, and then he can go to the SEC with the same amount of Bedlam wins as Gundy. Classic.
That'd be awesome. 3 for 3.
Something else that came out today, and it was about the Big 12, that rule about defenders cannot push offensive players out of the end zone anymore, or it's an automatic touchdown. That might be the dumbest thing ever. Not only is it making it harder for these guys to play defense, but when these teams, if the Big 12 can produce a playoff team while this rule is in place, it's going to be hard for the offense to probably a little bit more difficult. Maybe not impossible, but more difficult for the offense to adjust to actually having to put your feet down in the end zone and not hope that defensive players, push you out.
Well, I will say that that's only talking about on the front face of the end zone. It's not talking about the sides and the back. So if you catch a football and you're right, like 1 inch into the end zone in the air and you get pushed back into the field of play and your feet never touched, that's when it counts as a touchdown. Not talking about the out of bounds.
Was that not a touchdown already?
No, you have to put your feet. You have to, if you jump from the field with the possession of the ball and you jump in.
Drake Stoops caught a 2-point conversion last year against Texas from Spencer Rattler that tied the game 41 up on that exact scenario you're talking about. And I'm pretty sure his feet never touched the end zone.
I think his feet grazed the line.
We'll have to go back and look at that because I put my notice in at my job. Obviously, you guys know that, so I don't do anything at work anymore. I watched the entirety of the OU Texas Red River game from this season. So I just watched the play recently, and I'm pretty sure his feet never touched. I thought Because you can dive and not touch and break the plane. It's a touchdown. Is it not? Is it not? How is that any different?
Well, how it's any different is if you jump for a ball and you catch it and you possess it, and then you don't ever touch the ground, that's not a touchdown right now.
Essentially, what they're doing is saying the ball broke. They broke the plane, even though the player never touched the ground. The ball went past that line, which is still dumb because essentially, in a bowl game or in a playoff scenario, that rule is not in place. So now these guys have to, even if it's at the front of the end zone, they have to make sure their feet are down. They can't go hopping up and like trying to secure the ball like this, or getting a possession catch, and if they get smoked out of the end zone, it's going to hurt, and they're not going to know how to protect the ball.
This is why you should not have different rules for different conferences. This is why there needs to be a single governing body of a uniform rule book for every single one. I don't know. I just think it's goofy that a conference is going to make a rule change that doesn't apply in the SEC. That's goofy.
Get rid of the NCAA. Let's get these guys a commissioner.
Yeah, pretty much. So, no, overall it's pretty good. Football's right around the corner. It's hard to believe, but it is. We're only 6, 7, 8 weeks away, somewhere around there. It's going to be here before we know it. So, you guys have any final thoughts before we roll into the Mario Craver interview?
I was just going to say, stay tuned for Mario Craver. Pretty solid interview.
Yeah, definitely. So if you made it this far and you're about halfway through the video now, this is going to be 2024 four-star wide receiver Mario Craver. He's currently uncommitted right now, and it seems like from our interview he has quite a bit of interest with Oklahoma, and in my opinion seems to be an Oklahoma lean, or at least Oklahoma's at the top of his list. And I thought it was overall a pretty good interview to get to know him a little bit and build that relationship so we can maybe get him on throughout his junior and senior season. So we appreciate it, and be sure to subscribe, and we will roll into the interview now. Today, we are joined by Mario Craver. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. We're glad to have you on. For anyone that doesn't know, Mario is a part of the 2024 class. He's out of the state of Alabama. OU's been recruiting him hard, so we're going to be talking with him about his recruitment and various other things, his upcoming junior season and things like that. So, Mario, you're part of the 2024 class. OU currently sits with no commits in the 2024 class, but obviously the recruitment of you and fellow potential commits of the 2024 class are well underway. How are you doing? How are you feeling about Oklahoma and Alabama and Arkansas and any other schools that you're talking with?
OU, I love it. Like, the first time I stepped on campus, it was like amazing. Like, the fans, like the atmosphere, like the way that everybody's just so locked in with each other. That's what really made Oklahoma one of my top schools. And with them creating a new offense, and almost like they're supposed to be throwing the ball almost every other play this year. So I definitely would want to sit in that offense. So that played a big role in it.
What coaches do you think you feel like that you're building the best bonds with? Is it like Coach Gundy, the receivers coach?
Yeah,
Coach
definitely
Levy?
Coach Gundy.
Coach Gundy for sure? Okay. I kind of figured,
definitely.
but just, didn't really know for sure.
So I was scrolling through your Twitter right before you got on with us, and I noticed that you're kind of teasing a top 8. I think the date that I found was July 23rd, so we're here just a few short days away. Do you want to give us a sneak peek into who's in there? Or are you just going to hold on to it until that 23rd date?
I can give you 4.
All right, deal. Let's hear them.
Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama, and Texas A&M.
That's a pretty solid group of 4 right there. I'm curious to see what the other
SEC.
Yeah, all SEC. So with you being from the state of Alabama, does playing for the Crimson Tide, being the hometown school and everything else, does that have an appeal for you? Or are you looking to kind of go out and do your own thing? Obviously, they're in your top 8. What are you kind of feeling with that?
I mean, it really, I never really wanted to stay in state, but I always wanted to play in the Iron Bowl. Like, that's always been a dream of mine. But like going out of the state, it really wouldn't phase me too much, as long as I do my thing. But yeah, like Alabama with them being in state and them like playing the Iron Bowl every year, that played a big part too with them.
Just following the visits, and according to 24/7, you've unofficially visited OU 3 times. You've got an unofficial to Florida State. Have you lined up your visits to Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, and the yet?
I've got one with Oklahoma and Alabama. That's the only one that I have set up right now.
So, I mean, you're pretty young, right? You're like we established before we started. You're going into your junior season. What's recruiting been like so far? I mean, I'm sure you're expecting it to get a lot crazier once the 23 class kind of seals its fate, and at least in the early period. Are you expecting to start getting a lot more calls or seeing more campuses here after your junior season?
Definitely. Like I plan on taking my officials like as soon as the season is over. So as soon as the season is over, it'll probably be time to make a decision. So definitely. And because I'll be committing before my junior season for sure. I mean my senior season.
Okay, your senior season. So you're going to be taking some unofficials throughout this fall. Are you going to try to take any officials this fall to any schools, or are you going to wait till like next summer to do that before your announcement?
I'm gonna probably wait till like spring, or when I can right after the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely going to take them as quick as possible. ASAP.
So,
definitely.
My bad. So you're obviously the 2024 class, but how much, if at all, does the impact the 2023 classes have? Like for us, it's been a great July. We've been landing recruits left and right. It seems like we've climbed all the way to the number 11 class. How much do you follow like Alabama's 23 class, and how much does that impact your decision?
Oh, definitely. I definitely look at every quarterback that each college that I'm looking at gets, every receiver they get, like the corners that I'll be matching up with every day in practice. That definitely plays a big role because I want my teammates to be, if not better than me, as good as me.
So, I mean, you're a highly ranked kid in your class, right? And you mentioned you want to be playing with some of the best players. You want to have competition day in and day out so you guys can improve. As Adrian Peterson says, iron sharpens iron, right? So what is so appealing about Oklahoma? Is it Jackson Arnold that you might potentially get to sync up with? Is it Levy? I know you mentioned that the offense is appealing to you. What outside of those two may be something that you really like so far?
I like talking with other 24 recruits. I like what we could possibly get. And that 24 class could definitely be very, very special, especially talking with other 24 recruits. I've got a couple on my list that I'm gonna try to get if I do choose Oklahoma. Definitely something I'm gonna try to come get with me.
Yeah. You're talking about, locking down and committing before your senior season. So you're aiming to be kind of one of the lead recruiters in this 24 class, no matter where you go.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that'll be great because, I mean, you're already forming those bonds. And then if you get on, if you commit soon enough, man, you could really, really influence some decisions starting early.
Definitely. That's exactly what I would be trying to do.
We just had a commit in the 2023 class for OU on our show, and I asked him, and I'm going to ask you too as a player. I asked, he was a 3-star. Heath Ozida is a tackle from Washington. I asked him as a player, does he pay attention to these rankings, to the stars, to where he fits? And he said he does, and he used it as motivation. So you're a 4-star. I think 24/7 has you 25th best receiver in the class. So do you pay attention to all that, or not at all?
I mean, I don't let it affect my game, but I definitely try to prove all these other receivers that are ranked higher than me wrong, every chance I get. But far as me getting upset about the rankings, nah, not at all.
That's what everyone wants to hear. You want to just hear someone that's motivated, right? And going out there and just balling out every chance they get. What should fans expect from you as a player, as a person, whatever school you commit to? As obviously we hope it's Oklahoma, but in your own words, what should people expect out of you going into your junior season and by the time you make your commitment, hopefully going into college?
A player like who can make a play from like anywhere on the field, like a Showtime player, like a very electric player that can make big plays at big time. Like you get like it's a big moment, you know who the ball is going to. That type player.
When you need a third down conversion, you're going to be the guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. No, that's great. So you've been on campus a few times. So how many times have you been in Oklahoma? Brandon said, according to 247, has it been 3 times?
Yes, sir, I've been 3.
3 times. So did you come up for the spring game?
Oh, yes, sir, I did.
Yeah. So what did you think about that spring game? I mean, there are a lot of glowing reviews. A lot of people were hyped up about that. What did you think?
Yeah, it was crazy because like right before I had went to Florida State spring game and like the difference in the fans and the atmosphere and like what they did, it was crazy. Like comparing the two schools, like I was like, yeah, Florida State don't got a shot. Like I was like, oh my goodness.
It's funny you say that because we were at the spring game and we were mentioning like, man, if I were a recruit, this would be really cool. So it's cool to hear that like verified from somebody who's actually being recruited. But playing the receiver position, who do you kind of look up to at the college level or at the pro level? Like, do you have an idol? A Terrell Owens, Chad Ochocinco, something?
Like young receivers wise, I got Jameson Williams, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. Like kind of older guys, like Julio Jones, Odell, those type people, like those big time players are what like I watched growing up. But like now, like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Jameson Williams, Amari Cooper, yeah, like those 4 receivers, those who I learned from them a lot by watching them.
Just a quick follow up to that, Hose. I'm sorry. Do you have any OU receiver favorite of all time?
Definitely CD Lamb. Definitely. Yeah.
It's not a bad guy to try to emulate, especially I'm sure you probably have seen many highlights. Hopefully you saw the game. I know you text us when he just weaved around everyone. It seems like that's the kind of player you want to be, just someone that's going to make a play whenever your name is called. So not a bad guy to look up to at all. Going into your junior year, what are you trying to achieve and what are the expectations for your team?
We're trying to go back-to-back state championships. Like we have a target on our back right now. We know it's going to be twice as hard to win it twice than it is to win it one time. And with us losing a lot of seniors, it's really challenged me to step up and become a leader. Because last year I was an underclassman, and I really had guys to teach me how to be a leader. And now is my time to put on what they showed me.
Definitely. I mean, now you're already going. I mean, you're only going in your junior year, but man, if you did take that next step, your senior year can go really well. So, with OU recruiting you and everything else, with Levy, he hasn't officially coached his first OU game yet. But how do they see you in the offense? Are they thinking more in the slot? Are you going to be inside or outside? Have they kind of communicated where they think that you would fit into the offense?
Definitely in the slot. Me and Coach Gundy was talking about like definitely in the slot. I think that's why I'd be best unless I have some crazy growth spurt my senior year. Cause like I'm only 5'10", so if I have like something crazy, cause my dad is 6'4", so I definitely expect to get taller. So if I do get 6'2", then maybe some outside receiver, but for right now, slot.
So a lot of times, and I'm not saying this is going to be the case for you, but a lot of time when freshmen get to college, it's a different game between high school and college. And a lot of times people get their first start on special teams. So like if wherever you commit to, if the receiver room is full, just that freshman year, or whatever, is special teams somewhere that you wouldn't mind starting off at, whether it be returning kicks, returning punts, or, whatever?
Definitely, because that's the role that I played in high school. I had to sit in the back seat and learn the game first. So I would have no problem starting on special teams before I actually get on the offensive side of the ball.
At Oklahoma, you're gonna have pretty good guys to learn from at that slot position, and especially if Drake Stoops can come back every once in a while and teach you guys a little bit of what he's doing, because he's doing something special down there, especially as a guy that kind of just was expected to to get the role because of his name. He's obviously earned it, and it sounds like you're going to do everything that you can to earn your spot wherever you land. Something that the guys have kind of been doing here with the interviews when we get to talk to young prospects is kind of a fun question. We were on a different YouTube channel a while ago, and a question popped up about wings. Are you a drums or flats guy?
Oh, I'm definitely a flats guy. Definitely. Flats are the best.
Can we do one more food related question? Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I would say yes.
It's the right answer, man.
I would say yes.
Smart man, because it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. But the follow-up to the wings question is, do you like ranch or blue cheese?
Ranch, definitely. Ranch.
Yeah, there's another one.
That's 2-0 for ranch on this show, boys.
Yeah, for sure.
Ranch is really starting to stack up. It was blue cheese on Twitter.
And now it's ranch. Yeah, I definitely agree. Ranch is my number one. Blue cheese is not bad, but ranch is my number one. So obviously your top four are that you've told us are all SEC schools. OU joining the SEC, and whether it's next year, whenever 2025, did that play a role in your interest in Oklahoma from the beginning?
Definitely, because the competition that you play in the SEC is unbearable. Like that's the best it's gonna get. So them moving to the SEC it really pushed them forward, because that means they believe in their program. Like, and Coach Venables, he's definitely doing something special over there at Oklahoma.
Do you guys have any more questions for the young guy here?
Brandon, do you? I was going to say, how involved is Coach Venables in your recruitment? I know obviously Gundy is recruiting you quite a bit. Has Venables been talking with you much at all, or how does that look?
Oh yes, sir. Every time I call him, he answers the phone just about like every time. Like I can pick up the phone and call him at any time. Like me and Coach Venables have that connection.
I just want to know what it's like real quick to be in your shoes. Obviously, you still have a junior season and a senior season, so you still have, realistically almost 3 years before you get to a college campus. But this process starts very early as far as recruiting goes. Is your phone just like nonstop blowing up between coaches, other players, just all that?
Definitely, like especially when I post something, yeah, definitely.
So when did the recruiting process really like explode for you? Was it during your sophomore season when you started playing more, or were you even being recruited as a freshman?
No, sir. Like my freshman year, I didn't play at all. I didn't even have a Twitter. And I recently, in September, it was like my third game, and I was talking to Louisville actually, and they were telling me to make a Twitter, and I was like, yeah, a lot of people get recruited out there, so I made it, and they ended up being my first offer actually in September.
How does that work? So like, ahead. You create your Twitter after your sophomore year, during your sophomore year, or whatever, and I assume you have like a huddle highlight reel, and so do you or your coaches or whoever just send that out across the country, and then you kind of just wait to see who bites on it?
So I posted it at first, and then like I got my coach to post it on the football page and then the recruiting page, and then like from there it just took off.
Really? That's interesting. I've always been curious of that. So you make that huddle page and everything else, you send it out, and it's like that overnight. So outside of Louisville, when did Oklahoma come in the picture for you? Like, did obviously was it with Lincoln Riley at all, or
no,
was he already?
No, sir. He was already gone. It was like right after that offer of my DB, and I was like, dang, Oklahoma. He was like, when he posted his offer, he was like, Oklahoma, they got the best fans. He was like, look how many likes I got on Twitter. So I started looking at him. I was like, yeah. Then I started looking at the coaches, and I was like, yeah. And then I was like, I had one day he was on the phone with Coach Villa actually, and he had introduced me to him and then showed him my huddle. And then like a week later they offered. And then ever since then, after I visited and I've been talking to Coach Gundy, that's really how I started.
So I was going to say, hang on, one follow up. So Coach Falai obviously was at Alabama as a defensive backs coach. So was Coach Falai, whenever he got hired, he was the one who kind of introduced you to Gundy and Levy and kind of, passed on your tape then?
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I just got a question about Norman. So you're growing up Alabama, you play high school football in Alabama. You've been on 3 unofficial visits to OU. You said you got another one planned. Football aside, just what do you think of Norman, man? It's the heartland, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's definitely like a different experience for me because like I always not been the type to like want to stay home, and like I wanted to move. Like I always wanted to travel around the world like my whole life. Like that's still a goal that I want to achieve. And like Oklahoma, it's just like I don't know. It's just like a sweet spot for me. It's like it's far, but like it's not too far. Like it's definitely something I can do. Like come back and forth, especially with a flight.
And once Oklahoma makes it over to the SEC, your family can always, visit whenever you visit Tuscaloosa or SEC championships. When you're trying to beat Alabama.
Yeah. Showing off for everyone when you're beating the hometown state in the SEC championship game. That would be a pretty good sight to see. So, going through this process and everything else, as you stand right now, it seems like Oklahoma is near your top. Is there really, obviously you're going to do a top 8. Is there another school that sticks out in your mind outside of Oklahoma that they're like my number, it's 1A, 1B type deal? Like they're really up there. Is it LSU? Is it Alabama? Is it kind of multiple schools? I know you gave us 4 of them. I just didn't know if one really stuck out.
I would say between LSU and Alabama, definitely. Like those are my top 3, like set in stone. Like I know that it's a high chance I'll end up at one of those 3 schools.
Yeah, and probably with Jamar Chase and them, Jamison Williams playing at Alabama and then Jamar being from LSU, it probably plays a factor in your interest, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I watched your tape, and I know you run track. You can fly. I mean, the tape doesn't lie. But if you weren't playing football, what would you be playing?
Actually, people don't know that I like currently still play basketball. Like I currently still play basketball like to this day. Like I'm on a basketball roster, so I definitely would be playing basketball.
Yeah. So I think that's all I've got. It's been great. And I get the feeling, I don't want to put the words in your mouth. I feel like it's between OU, Alabama, and LSU, kind of right now anyway. We'd love for you to end up being a Sooner if that's in your best interest. And, we're going to keep making podcasts and everything else. And hopefully we can get you on, throughout your junior season and everything else. Brandon, Jose, do you have any follow-up questions or final thoughts for him?
If you want to make your official announcement next year on this show, just reach out. We'll break it live for everybody
do all
to
the
see.
Edits and everything for you, bud.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Good luck this year, man. We'll be rooting for you, and we'll be watching. We'll be watching. Try to watch some of your games. See how it's going out there for you.
Absolutely, yes, sir. We appreciate you.
Yeah. So definitely appreciate you coming on. Maybe we'll get you on again in the future. Again, like Brandon said, if you want to make your announcement on here, that would be awesome, or at least an interview or something like that. We can make that happen. So for everyone that's still watching this, if you made it this far, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave a comment. Brandon, before I totally wrap it up, the comment is your video challenge.
Yeah. So we do an video challenge on the show, Mario, and it's kind of just for the viewers, just they kind of say whatever they think about the video and whatnot. So obviously we're joined by Mario Craver. Kid's pretty special, 2024 4-star. But as he mentioned, he feels he's better than a lot of the receivers in that class, and we're going to agree. And he did mention too, when looking at Oklahoma, he mentioned that he's like, man, you see all this love I'm getting on social media and stuff. So it really does matter, fans. So just drop all the love for Mario Craver. Let's see if we can get him in the Crimson and Cream.
Definitely. So be sure to do the in video challenge again. Subscribe, like the video, comment, follow us on all our socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Apple and Spotify. Everything's linked below. And we will again link Mario's Twitter and Instagram to this description below as well. And we will catch you guys back on Monday.